Welcome to the Answers for Elders radio show. Meet the trusted experts who will give you straight answers and will help guide you on the path of later life care. Now, here's your host, founder, caregiver, and CEO, Suzanne Newman.
And welcome back, everyone, to Answers for Elders Radio Network. And we are here with Rebecca Bomann, founder and CEO of SASH Services. And I know we're going to talk, we talked the first about neighbors that want to buy a house and why sometimes there's some danger red flags in that. So now we're going to move on to another category. And what are we going to talk about this segment, Rebecca?
Yes. And so we're, talking about how seniors can be taken advantage of in the sale of their home. This is a really big one. And so I'm glad we're going to have a whole segment to devote to it. This is house flippers and investors. And just as a quick background to house flippers and investors, it's important to know that folks who are house flippers and investors don't go to community college and get a degree for this. There's not a trade school or certificate. They get their education from going to conferences, signing up for coaching, going to boot camps that are held in a hotel, like a conference. And it's at these places that they teach these potential house flippers and investors how to get deals, which mostly include very aggressive tactics of getting a homeowner to agree to sell their property for less than market value.
Right.
And so their strategies maybe are effective, but if you're 82 years old and living alone and hard of hearing and your family lives out of state and a house flipper comes to you with some of these strategies, Suzanne, it's just downright disgraceful, some of the things they teach. And so I want to go through some of the ways that seniors are taken advantage of by house flippers and investors, and then we'll talk as well about ways that people can offset this and protect themselves against this, especially with their senior loved ones. One strategy is they make the senior believe their home is worth much less than it is, much less. They don't show them comparable sales. They don't help them see what they could get on the regular market. They just offer a low price and will sometimes scare them with conversations that their home is going to be cited by the city. It's out of code. It's going to be torn down. They should be lucky anyone's interested in it at all, especially if there's deferred maintenance, which sometimes happen. Another strategy is they come in with an offer and they use their own contracts. They don't use MLS issued purchase and sale forms that are standard in our industry. They bring in contracts they got from this boot camp. And these contracts reduce the rights to the seller and increase the rights to the buyer. And they get the senior in a situation where they can't get out of the contract.
And I bet the senior doesn't even know they're not signing a standard contract.
They don't even know. And they're not even going to go through the forms with them. It's just signed here. I've also heard of house flippers and investors knocking on seniors' doors and just going straight to their home. In particular, they will read the obituaries and see when the senior has lost a spouse, and then go to the senior's home and begin talking to them directly and knocking on their door, knowing they're in a vulnerable state and may decide to make the decision to sell their home. They may also, I've seen this happen, start with a high price that gets the senior homeowner real excited. I'm going to give you $450,000 for your home or $700,000 for your home. And then once they get the contract signed, they begin to come in with all these different reasons why the price has to go down, not ever telling the senior that they now have the right not to go forward anymore. And so they make the senior feel trapped in this contract. I'm sorry, I had to come down $170,000 because of X, Y, or Z, but you are still selling to me, and they don't let them know how they could possibly get out or change their mind. And these are hard to hear, but this is really important for listeners to know that this happens. Another way that they do it is they'll sign a contract with the senior homeowner, and then they sell the contract to another party, another investor. This is called wholesaling or assignment. So they'll put the house under contract with the senior homeowner. say for $300,000. Then they sell the contract to another investor for a profit of 15 or 20. That investor, the third party, comes in and buys it, and the first house flipper just goes away with their 15 or 20,000. And the senior has no idea that any of this is going on behind the scenes. It makes the senior more vulnerable because that one investor puts the senior's house out on the market. Hey, I've got a deal under contract. Here it is. While the senior is still living in that home, investors are coming and walking on the property and taking a look at it because they want to be the ones to buy the home. Another thing that they'll do is push for a fast closing, all cash, 7 days, all cash. Let's do it right now. We're going to close by next Friday, so that the senior homeowner doesn't have enough time to get out. It's done, it's final, it's over with very quickly. And there's not a long process that allows the senior to really think through the decision they're making and how important it is. Not all house flippers and investors are bad. There's, of course, people with integrity and without integrity, as you have said, in every industry. But what people need to know about house flippers and investors is they have no governing body. So a real estate agent is licensed by the state of Washington or the state of wherever you are. And we have our local MLS association that also holds us accountable to rules and regulations. There is no such thing for house flippers and investors. They can crawl out from under a rock, do a really unscrupulous thing, and then disappear again. There's no accountability. So they can come and go, start new companies, disappear, and not have that accountability, which is why they get away with doing things like this.
Unbelievable.
I have sat in many living rooms with seniors and their families where they will bring out to me a stack of letters that the senior has received from house flippers and investors that say, I'll buy your home, all cash, close in 14 days as is. And they look handwritten because the software allows the letter to look handwritten. This goes back to our discussion about it feels trustworthy, right? Mm-hmm. But it's just a computer generated letter, and they'll include a gift card or $1 or a Starbucks card or a heavy coin that makes them feel obligated to call them back, and feel like now they've got to do business with them. And so the question is why is the price that a house flipper offers a senior homeowner so harmful compared to that market listing if they were just going to list it? The reason is because house flippers and investors have to bake in a lot of extra line items into their budget. They have to bake in 15 to 20% profit, and a hedge if things go sideways in the sale. They're usually borrowing money at high interest rates because they're borrowing from private money
or they're using hard money.
Exactly. So all of these factors push the price down to the senior that they would have been able to get if they had not sold to a house flipper. So as an example, I recently listed a home for a client here in Seattle who his family had owned the property for 81 years. 81 years. He was 1 year old when they moved in. He had kept it for 80 years. It was definitely a fixer. Old electrical panel, the blackberry bushes had grown over the back of the house. It was full of his belongings. And he thought he might get only $350 to $375 for the home, and was thinking maybe a house flipper is all we can sell it to, maybe just an investor. Well, we helped him clean his house out. We helped him sell the belongings in the home. He made a few thousand from that. We did a deep clean. We landscaped the outside. We put it on the market. And instead of him getting $350 or $375 for his home, which he was kind of expecting, we sold his home for $495,500.
That's amazing.
Is that going to make a difference in his long-term care?
Huge difference.
Right? Another $120,000 just by him not being vulnerable to thinking that a house flipper is the only way to go. So to offset this risk, you want to encourage your senior loved one, if they ever are approached by a house flipper or an investor, be there, be engaged, be present, show up at those meetings, look them up, call them. Don't let those conversations happen without you. Don't
Mhm.
let those visits happen without you. Warn your senior loved one that if somebody comes and approaches them and says, can I just do a quick walkthrough, a quick inspection? No, absolutely not. These are not people to open the door to, and never sign anything. Don't sign anything, no matter how good it sounds, until you've got those advisors and people around who can be looking at it and making sure that all the T's are crossed, it's legit, it's above board, and the senior's best interests are being protected.
Well, and obviously by doing that, you're going to know what kind of contract you're actually signing too, because again, like you were saying, you don't know what these contracts are that you're signing. So that's really important, obviously.
Yes.
And go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I know that a lot of times people will just watch these shows, on TV, and I've seen them on HGTV. This is all you're going to get for your house. And that's the first thing that came up into my head. We're all watching that. And who's watching most of that are seniors. That's their big market, right? And so obviously, women and seniors are I think in many cases are the most vulnerable as well. So that's something that, you definitely, your words are absolutely important.
And anybody who owns property is vulnerable to house flippers and investors. And so this is for everybody to hear and understand. There could be a good transaction with selling the home to an investor. Maybe everything's above board, but seniors do not know how to advocate for themselves as well, with contracts and forms and all the things that are happening. And so it's really important that they don't get swept away with some of these aggressive strategies and find themselves in a transaction that's actually not in their best interests.
Well, that's important. So Rebecca, how do we reach you?
You can find us on our website at sashservices.com, and we have a toll-free number, 888-400-SASH, that's 7274.
And Rebecca and I will be back with number 3 right after this. We at Answers for Elders thank you for listening. Did you know that you can discover hundreds of podcasts in our library on senior care? So visit our website and discover our decision guides that will help you also navigate decision making. Find us at answersforelders.com.